I'm Joe McBride from Rackspace. This is Kyle McInnes from HP, and we're here to talk to you about Designate, DNS for OpenStack. So a quick overview of Designate. Designate is a multi-tenant authoritative DNS. It has a REST API as well as a command line interface that makes it simple and easy to interact with. Basic functionality that it includes is zone and record management. It also allows you to plug in multiple name servers. So if you have a preference for a particular brand or particular version or whatever, that option is available. Additionally, it has some solid integration with some of the critical OpenStack components, such as Keystone, Nova, and Neutron. Quick note about the history and our current status. So you started Designate.
Yes, I did.
Right.
Just before I joined HP.
Okay.
Yep.
So in 2012,
Yep.
you have the first commit.
I do.
And so he started in 2012. Many other teams have joined the list, just to name a few: eBay, Red Hat, and Rackspace. Did I miss any? I think I got them all.
The Enovans have been involved.
Enovans, yes.
There's been a couple of others. The names escape me. They're probably going to shoot me.
Okay. Wikimedia was in it too for a little while, weren't they?
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit, okay. Well, we're always looking for contributors. So we are applying for incubation literally next week. So at the end of May 2014, we are expecting to have that submitted, and we hope to get accepted. And then finally, you guys are running it in production.
Yes, so my team both does development and ops, and we run the HP Cloud DNS service.
Nice.
Okay, so architecture. Designate's made up of 3 or 4, depending how you look at it, main pieces. The first is the API service, so Designate API, REST API out front. Then there's Designate Central, all the core business logic. It's the only thing that talks to our database. Pretty much everything belongs in there. Then embedded within that is the back-end driver. This diagram shows the PowerDNS one, but we support PowerDNS, NSD4, Red Hat's free IPA, and a couple of others. And finally, there's Sync. Designate Sync will listen in on Nova and Neutron's notifications. It can use that to automate the provisioning or deprovisioning of DNS records as you boot, destroy instances, Neutron ports, as you attach and detach floating IPs. So overall, it's a relatively simple architecture. It'll be relatively familiar to anybody who knows OpenStack services. So I'll leave it at that. We have, oh, you're going to do this one, aren't you?
Well, thank you, Kyle. I want to tell you a little bit about some of the features that we have coming up. So for Juno, all of our teams are very focused on this concept of a multiple server pools, which is basically you can run sets of name servers that are independent of each other. And that capability will also enable private DNS, which is not part of Juno, but we're laying the framework down for that. We also have DNSSEC that we would like to target at some point. Failover is on the list, and improved bind support, which Ron Rickard from eBay is actually talking about getting that done real soon. So we'll see if he can deliver.
One note on failover: the service is all HA, but it would be DNS failover, where we would monitor an endpoint change the record on demand rather than our service not being failover.
That's why I'm glad you're here. Okay, so we're just going to do a real quick demo to show you guys what it's capable of doing. We'll do some simple things. We're going to add a domain, we'll add a record, and we're just going to switch tenants so you can see some of the multi-tenancy. We're going to do all of this using the command line interface. All right, so I'm going to switch over now. Let me just get some things set up. So before I get into this, I do want to mention I stole some of these scripts and some of this demo from an earlier presentation that Ron Rickard and Graham Hayes did with the deep dive. So if you get a chance to check that out, I'm pretty sure it's going to be online on either on YouTube or wherever OpenStack puts their presentations. So the first thing I want to do is source the credentials for a user. So I am now acting as user 1. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to list out the current domains that are in there. So you can see here I have 3 domains that are running. And just one note, I'm running this local right now. We actually have a VM that we put together where you can actually download it, run through a quick install, and interact with it if you want to really try it out. So we'll see about posting that somewhere. So I listed the domains, and the first thing I want to do is create a domain. It's probably the most basic thing you can do with DNS. So I'm going to do designate domain-create. I'm going to specify the name that I want. Any thoughts?
This is the vBrownbag room, isn't it?
vBrownbag get in. Oh, hell, I'm just going to keep it short. I can say hell, can't I? I just did. Okay, so I'm going to specify the name, and then I will specify an email. So I'll just put my email in there. Please don't spam me. Okay, so the response I get from this shiny, clean, interactive command line interface is that it was successful. And just to cover some of the points that get returned. So you can see when I created it, if I were to update it, of course, that would get changed. Email, there's a TTL that's initially set. That is configurable, so if you want to go lower or higher, you can make that decision. The serial is based on the Unix timestamp. And then we've got the UUID, which uniquely identifies that domain. One other thing I didn't mention, the description, so you can specify your own description there. So for example, I said, I want this to be a production environment, then I can say that. Or do not delete, I could do that too, although that's probably not very effective. So the next thing I'm going to do is prove to you guys that when I created this in Designate, it actually pushed the name server. I'm sorry, it pushed the domain to the DNS backend that I'm running, in this case, which is PowerDNS. So let's see, localhost, and then vBrownbag.com, and I want the SOA record. So when I issued that request, you can see right here, I did not get any errors back, which means that, hey, there's something there. And the answer was my SOA record, which is highlighting the fact that I am using currently ns.example.net. I created the name servers earlier just so that I could roll through this pretty quickly. So I can also do a quick check for the NS records just to prove that it's there, and you can see there we go in our answer section. So I'm going to move on to create a record. Let's clear things out to make it easier. So to create a record, it's designate record. Well, first I'm going to check if there are any records on this just to prove that that is there. And I should have done a domain list. I thought I copied that. Let me get the UUID.
The use of IDs is something we're fixing soon.
I can't wait. Okay, so I'm going to designate record list. I don't have any records created. There's no surprise there because I didn't create any. So let's create a record. First thing I will do is designate record create. It's so easy to use, by the way, this command line interface. So designate record create, and I'm going to set the name for this record as, I'll just do something simple, www, unless you have ideas.
-- name.
Oh, thank you. That's why they pay you the big bucks. www.vbrownbag.com, and I have to include the dot at the end because it's a fully qualified domain name. So I've specified the name, and then I'm going to do the type. So in this case, we'll just do an A record, and I will specify the data, which is just for fun. I'll do that, and finally the ID. So the ID. Oh, you know what? I just noticed this is. There we go. Okay. Well, that messed things up a little bit, but if you just look at this right here, you'll see I specified the ID, and the ID is simply the ID of the domain name, excuse me. So I'll hit enter, and it gives me back a similar response to the one I got when I created the domain. In this case, you can see the name that I created is there, and here's the data. Oh, it doesn't set the TTL.
It inherits from the domain.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick designate record list again. And apparently I did not copy that. Let me get getting the ID for the domain again so I can list it out and show you guys that, oh, there we go. It's now in Designate's database. And just like I did earlier, I'm going to do a quick dig on localhost. I'm doing it for www.vBrownbag.com. Add my dot at the end. And when I do that, I get did I do that wrong?
vBrownbag.
Dig localhost.
Yeah, you spelled brown wrong.
Okay, thank you. Bam. And there's my answer section with the A record that I created for www.vbrown.com pointing to 1.2.3.4.
So we're pretty much out of time, I think.
That we are.
Yep.
If you're interested in learning more about Designate, come check out the IRC. Kyle is in Ireland. The Rackspace folks are Central Time, and we have some folks on Mountain Time. So we cover the time zones pretty wildly, and you're always working. So hit us up there, and we can help you out with anything. And then the documentation, we also work really hard on that, so we'd love if you could check that out. And then finally, if you want to learn more about participating or downloading or what's going on with our meetings and events, you can visit us on the wiki, which is that third link. And oh, one other thing, and you're always good about mentioning this, the fact that we meet every Wednesday at 1700 UTC.
Yep, in meeting wiki/designate/meeting will bring you to the page detailing when and where.
Yes. Cool.
Okay.
Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you.